This here is another viewer's broken gaming PC. It does look a bit different in here. I changed the backdrop a tad and the lighting is slightly darker. I don't want it so bright anymore. Let me know what you think about it in the comment section. Anyway, this system, the problem with it is that it does not post, which means that everything should turn on, right? The fans should start spinning, the LEDs should turn on. Everything looks like it's working, but then you get no picture out to your monitor, you get the no signal issue on your screen, and that's just that's just a heartbreaker, especially when everything looks like it should be working. It's just one big tease. Well, in this video, we're gonna try to fix it. I'm hoping that it's not the graphics card, because this is an RTX 2080. It's a beefy thing. And I'm also hoping that it's not the platform, although it's probably one or the other. Core i7 8700K in here. I'm assuming Z series chipset motherboard. The cooler, bit of a backstory. We'll talk about this in a minute. But who knows? It's like a box of chocolates. You never know what you're gonna get in the office in a fix or flop video, and I'm as in the dark as all of you. So I hope you enjoy the process. Come along for the ride. Stay with me. If you're looking to buy or sell PC gear online, then check out Jawa.gg, a friendly marketplace dedicated to graphics cards, CPUs, laptops, and pretty much any other PC component, including full builds that you can think of. Their search engine is intuitive and simple, allowing you to set minimum and maximum prices, as well as filter results by component or type. You'll be notified when listings become good values based on current market trends, and you can easily communicate with and make offers for sellers and their products. By the way, there are several reputable pre-built sellers on Jawa who you should totally check out. You'll find competitive pricing for peace of mind while shopping. And on the flip side, selling your own components has never been easier. Jawa's fees are very competitive, and you can even fulfill shipping by allowing Jawa to create labels for you. There's so much to do and find here, and of course you can browse totally for free, so you have really nothing to lose by checking it out. Click the link in the video description to get started buying or selling today. Hey there, and welcome to Fix or Flop. In this playlist, our goal is to fix viewer systems in and around Orlando, Florida for free. We charge $0.00, and that's thanks to all of you. Your viewership allows us to continue what we're doing here without charging anyone a dime. Also, thanks to our sponsors, like the pre-roll you just saw. Sometimes you'll see product integrations as well, and all of that helps us continue doing what we're doing here, just trying to make a small impact on the community and help folks fix computers for folks that they depend on, especially in this day and age. A lot of folks are still working from home. These systems are their livelihoods, and without these, they can't get their jobs done, and that's a pretty important part of life, right? Being able to do your job and make money and pay your bills. So this system, again, like I said, does not post, which means that we're at least receiving power. So I'm not suspecting that this is going to be a power supply issue. I was told by the owner that this graphics card in here, this RTX 2080 Strix from ASUS, was swapped out. It was inserted into another rig, and it did post, and that card appeared to be working fine. We'll still need to check that before diving deeper into the platform, if that is the case, if the platform is to blame. We don't want to just take a viewer, an owner of a system, at his or her word, not because we don't trust the owner, but because by nature we shouldn't trust anyone, right? Because anybody could tell you anything, but without seeing it with our own eyes, we have no way of actually verifying independently that these things are either working or defective. Speaking of which, the first thing we need to do is attempt to power the system on and replicate the issue described by the owner. Again, no picture to a monitor. So here we are, gonna connect to our portable monitor here, which I have linked in the video description, by the way, along with all of our remaining troubleshooting gear. Many of you have asked about this little Pixio panel. It's nice because you don't need to just use it for troubleshooting. That should not have been. Why is this SATA cable disconnected? It was clipping against the graphics card fan, and that is no good. Alrighty. Anyway, as I was saying, you don't have to use this just for troubleshooting. It's great that it's portable and thin. It's just powered by a USB-C cable and a very small power adapter that you plug directly into the wall. You can also take this with you if you're maybe editing on the go. You can connect this to your laptop and use it as a second display. So there's a lot you can do with it. We are not getting a picture to this monitor though, and that sucks. I did notice we have a Dr. Debug LED at the top. That's great. Ooh, not good. This here is giving us code 00, which in my experience means that there's a very serious problem with the CPU. I'm probably gonna run just a couple quick tests first to make sure that it's not something simpler than that, because obviously to switch the CPU out, we'll have to take this fat cooler off. This motherboard does have a dedicated clear CMOS button, which is nice. You can see it's illuminated here. We'll push that in, hold it for a few seconds, and then we'll attempt to power the system back on. Our BIOS settings should be reset to factory defaults. However, if this isn't to blame, then we still won't get a picture out regardless. Let's try power again. And yep, we're still at double zeros for the Dr. Debug LED. So not expecting a post here. Next thing we can do is look at these memory modules. What we can do is try a single DIMM. You see this is Trident CDDR4, very good modules. Usually these use Samsung B dies. Well, some of them do, some of them don't. But some of the best memory in the business back when these first came out. And despite them being of good quality, you just never really know. So that's why I'm gonna swap these out for just a single DIMM from my stack that I know works. Of course, their Vengeance LPX will do. And you can see we've got it in slot A2, which is the first slot that needs to be populated on this board. Now, I should clarify, I'm not expecting this to work, just given the Dr. Debug code that we got right away. But because swapping memory and clearing the CMOS are so simple, it would be a sin in my book to not check these first, just so we have peace of mind when we start diving deeper into the platform. And sure enough, still double zero, still no picture. So we're gonna need to swap to some other Coffee Lake chip. I hope I have one. Bit of a special day here. You guys are gonna get a peek inside my CPU box, my CPU drawer collection, whatever you wanna call it. Like most of these are Ryzen chips, just because we've had more folks work with Ryzen platforms that come into the office. But yeah, this is where I'm really hoping that I have a Coffee Lake chip. I don't know for sure. If not, then this is KB Lake. Okay, so if I have KB Lake, I probably have Coffee Lake.
A few moments later.
Okay, so I don't have Coffee Lake CPUs. But we still might have a chance here. See, we're still gonna need to remove his chip anyway, and we might find something in here that we can fix ourselves. We might have a bent pin, broken pin, might not be able to fix that. These LGA sockets can be yeah, super tedious, but if we have a bent pin that we can fix, because this cooler, I didn't tell you this earlier, was replaced, then that might be something that, yeah, we can straighten out ourselves. So let's get something to clean this thermal paste up with. What have we here? Oh no, it's not an 8700K, it's a 9700K. That I do have. I don't know if I have a Core i7 variant, but I do have maybe like a Core i3 or Core i5. That's refreshing. Okay, so let's take this out and check the contact points underneath the chip, and then we'll check the pins themselves. Aha! I see it, my friends. Do you see it? That is definitely a cluster of bent pins there. It might just be one, but you can always tell by the way they reflect light. They should all be reflecting right, mostly the same, just small differences in where they're angled, but for the most part they should all look the same shade. And you can see there are very clearly a few that are not where they should be. I think this is salvageable, folks. We've done this before a few times here in the playlist. I think we can fix this. Ooh, you know what? I think I'm gonna retract my previous statement. So it actually looks like we're missing two pins in two different places. In fact, I think one of the pins that broke off is sitting to the right of the gap here closer to the camera. So I'm gonna have to get a sewing needle. I find that's usually the best thing to use with these. Some people like to use toothpicks, but I've had the best work with sewing needles. They're rigid enough as well, so you can kind of manhandle these pins, but you don't wanna bend them too much and too aggressively, because if they do snap off, like is what I think happened here, it's pretty much unsalvageable. I mean, with the tooling I have here in this office, and I imagine most folks have at their disposals, you're not gonna be able to fix these. It's a bit easier to deal with the PGA side of things with AMD, but here, this is irreparable unless you take it to a specialist. As for the CPU side of things, looking pretty good here. It's a tad dirty, but otherwise I don't suspect anything on this side of the equation is preventing the system from posting. I'm gonna try my best here just to get a feel for what's going on. It's possible these pins are just bent so far back. Actually, yeah, this one is. So this pin is still there. The problem is it's bent so far back that it might snap when I try putting it back into place. This is when having surgeon hands can come in very handy. I think that might do it. It's still a little out, but looks a lot better than it did. We might have to shuffle that around a bit more. Now this one, where's this one? Did this get bent all the way back too? It just looks like this one's outright missing. I don't see this pin at all. And I'm pretty sure it's supposed to be there. I don't remember this gap when I was dealing with 9700Ks and the like. Oh gosh. Oh, okay, I actually think I might have gotten it. I thought it was completely pushed backwards again. You guys, you got to be very careful with this stuff. When you're swapping out CPU coolers, maybe even swapping out CPUs, these pins are super sensitive. The slightest nudge, if you don't set these chips in correctly, will set these pins off in totally different directions, and then you'll get the symptom that we just saw here, where it can't read the CPU. That explains the 00 in our Dr. Debug. So here is what things look like now. You can see there's still a bit of a gap there. I've got the pins, like the tips of the pins, lined up where I think they need to be. But obviously things lower down aren't fully situated. I just don't want to risk it, because if I do keep prying at this, there's a chance that those pins could completely snap off, and again, that's going to total the board. So I don't want to test my luck anymore. I want to try things as is. I'm pretty sure we're going to get a post now. And now with the bare minimum connected, I obviously don't have the CPU cooler on, and I don't recommend you do this unless you're very familiar with this kind of stuff. We're obviously not going to be leaving this on for very long at all. Just a few seconds to see if we can get past the 00 code. I'm going to flip the switch at the rear of the power supply, and let's just go for it. Actually, I need to push the start button because we don't have that wired up yet. Yes, all right. That's good stuff. That's all I needed to see. If you notice on the top right, we switched from 00 to something like 17 or 7F. That's great. So that means that the CPU is now at least being detected. I'll do it again very quickly here to show you up close, power on, and you can see the cycling there. That's perfect. That's all we need to see. And for those in the comments, you're gonna be like, oh, now his CPU just got way too hot there. First on, again, it was on for a few seconds, but this isn't even, like, this is lukewarm. The CPU had no time to heat up at all. That's why it's okay in this instance. But again, you obviously don't want to leave this running long term with no cooler on it. It's going to severely throttle itself and likely damage itself. All right, and now it looks like we've got everything wired back up. We'll get the graphics card back in here. Just, well, a little weird how we get this in. Slide it like that. And then we'll reconnect the two 8 pins. I noticed he was missing an extra thumb screw to hold the graphics card in place, so we'll hook him up with one. There we go, my OCD is satisfied. We're of course gonna repaste him, get his cooler and fan situated. Now, because we can safely assume that the system is now up and running again, we'll obviously verify that before we package it up and give it back to the owner. The one thing that I want to do, because we didn't change anything, we didn't need to, all the components in here are the original components that came in with the system, I want to upgrade his storage. So he actually already has an NVMe in here, but I want to give him another one. This is apparently his workstation. He uses it for a lot of things that he does for work, and it doesn't hurt to have more storage, and thanks to Crucial, we have a P5 Plus to give him, well, quite a bit extra storage, and it's going to be super fast as well. P5 Plus drives from Crucial are PCIe 4 compatible. Obviously, his platform doesn't support it, but you can always migrate this to a Gen 4 system later on, and you'll be able to take advantage of super fast speeds. But as it is, this should fully saturate Gen 3 lanes, depending on where it's connected. And of course, paired with a 1 terabyte capacity here, you can see at the bottom, this is just begging for heavy-duty workloads. And on top of that, it doesn't hurt that these are super low profile and very easy to install. You don't need SATA cables or anything else, nothing that you need to worry about snagging your graphics card fans, which definitely shouldn't have happened. That was a bit cringy. But yeah, you can learn more about these P5 Plus drives in the video description. I want to thank Crucial for being the product sponsor of today's video. And now that everything is set up, we can try powering on officially for the first time since fixing those bent pins. Yep, right away, we get plenty of action on the Dr. Debug LED. And we're just looking for a post at this point. Give me something. It'd be so nice to know that we didn't actually have to replace anything in this build to get it to work again. Those are always, those are always great revelations. Dr. Debug code A0. So what we're getting now, we're definitely past the 00 problem. We have A0 now, and I believe we have a post. Technically speaking, that green light there, just below the debug LED is for the for boot, and that means that the system should have posted at least. We aren't getting a picture on screen. I think the reason why we're not is because the VGA light is also illuminated, so potentially something wrong with the graphics card now. You can see we have both power LEDs illuminated here on the graphics card, so the card is receiving supplemental power just fine. At least that's what these should mean. You can see if we disconnect one of these, then you'll get a red LED like that, and that means that it's not receiving power, so this is not what you want. So I've tried re-clearing the CMOS. I've tried these, this is like a dual BIOS switch or a different performance profile switcher here. Tried both of these, left and right, still no post. I reseated RAM. I guess what we can do is remove the card next and try booting in through through IGP, through the integrated graphics on the CPU. That's about all I got left. I hope this graphics card's not dead because I do not have a replacement for this. Okay, now I'm super weirded out because we got the graphics card completely removed. HDMI is plugged directly into the motherboard, basically running off the IGP, and we still get the exact same Dr. Debug code A0, the same 2 illuminated LEDs, the green for boot and the white for VGA. So what the heck is going on here? I guess we're going to strip everything down to just the 8 pin and the 24 pin. Maybe there's an issue with like a boot device that's not connected properly or something. It's the only other reason I could find this popping up online. Well, nothing I've tried seems to work. I've done literally everything I can without touching the CPU and motherboard. And at this point, I kind of want to go back to the drawing board with respect to the socket. I might just outright replace the CPU with one that I know works, that's compatible with this motherboard. I think that'll be the easy way to rule out whether or not pins are still in the correct places. Sorry, I seem a little exhausted. It's because I am, because I've spent like an hour trying to figure out what's going on here. It looks like we fixed whatever was initially wrong with this, only to run into another roadblock later on down the line, just before posting. Or maybe it does post and there's just some other issue. I don't know why the boot light is on at the same time as the VGA light. And why would that matter if, you know, like if it's the CPU that, or I should say the integrated graphics processor as a part of the CPU package that is the issue, then we are effectively bypassing that anyway by having the 2080 in here. So if that's still not the problem, then what could be, right? Apart from just the CPU itself. So that's why I want to replace it. I think the socket is now fine because we got past that initial hurdle. The problem is I only have like a Core i3-9100F. I mean, hey, it's something. Ooh, take that back. I have a Core i5-9400F here, which it's obviously not a Core i7 like what he has, but he's not likely to notice the difference unless he's doing some heavy compiling, gaming, etc., which it just sounds like that's not what he does. I could be totally wrong here, but at the very least, this gets his system back up and running, assuming his chip is to blame. So in a bit of frustration, I went ahead and whipped out my microscope. I'm actually still suspecting that it's a socket. Once I took the 9700K out, I took another good look at these pins and whipped out the microscope because I have a feeling that this is still not perfect. We've got, you can see, it's this one right here. This pin, now to the naked eye you can't tell, but this pin actually has a pretty big issue in that it's bent so far backwards that it's starting to tear here at the base. And again, once these tear off, the socket's just completely done for unless you want to get it repaired by a specialist, which I imagine is not going to be cheap. I'm sure it can be done. It's just at this point I'd rather just replace the board. So this one looks pretty bad, and I'm going to show you the other one. That's this one. Pick the odd one out, right? This right here with that large gap above is just because this has been bent all the way back, and we tried bending it back into place, but yeah, we just can't really bend that far down into it. And you can see there's another very big tear in that fine metal there. So I think the socket is toast. I've gotten this, I mean, I'm trying to get these back into place. This is about as good as I can get it without it really just totally snapping off. I don't know how much more we have left to give, and there's not a lot of contact already being made there with that particular pin. So I don't know. At this point, if we still can't get it to work, I'm just going to swap motherboards.
Approximately 10 hours later.
Well, okay. So, found the problem. His CPU is totally nuked. It's gone. It's just... I realized that it heats up super fast. And it shouldn't do that. Now, we had it on for like, what, a split second, and I didn't notice it getting very hot. I think that's because by that point, the CPU hadn't actually tried to initialize. The 9400F that I put in this rig just now, after, again, checking the pins, works just fine. So it's likely that the pin issue in the socket was a separate issue. I can't confirm nor deny the fact that the CPU might have been taken out by the broken bent pins, whatever you want to call them. But one thing I know for sure is that this CPU does not work anymore. His 9700K is gone. And there we are with our 9400F in here. The system posts just fine, no worries. His system is a bit loud, but other than that, everything is working again. Alrighty, and here we go, hopefully for the last time this time, with the CPU in. I just want to make sure that it turns on with all of the peripherals now reconnected. Power there. Watching closely. Yes, there it is. Great. That's good stuff. And I think, yeah, F1 to run setup. Just make sure that his storage drives are detected again. He had his SATA cables disconnected when they came when the system came in, so I just want to see if they're connected here. So the M.2 was the only one with a boot volume on it, and there we go, loaded straight into Windows, and there shouldn't be any issues with driver conflicts and things like that because, again, we're kind of side grading here. I mean, it's a downgrade on paper, right, to a Core i5 from a Core i7, but we're in the same CPU generation, the same family, so I don't expect to run into any blue screens down the line or anything just because we swapped like major components without reinstalling Windows. So that is good to see, and I think at this point, what is it? At this point, we're done, right? That's it. We've done everything we need. And something I just noticed, you can see still A0 there on Dr. Debug. That just indicates again that the system's posted. So seeing that before was confusing to me because we shouldn't get that if everything is functioning properly. Again, we had that VGA light on in tandem with the boot light, and we weren't getting a picture out. Just swapping the CPU fixed the issue. I'm gonna have to run a few more tests with his chip. I'm not sure if it's just like maybe that particular CPU with this particular board that, you know, that combo's not working out or what. Unfortunately, I don't have another one of these motherboards to test that with, but in the future, we'll revisit it and see what's what. But at this point, I'm excited to say that the system is back to working order. Again, with the slight downgrade in the CPU, at least it's working again, and you know, it's just unfortunate that it ended up being one issue after another. I was hoping that just rebending the pins in the socket would be the cure-all, but for whatever reason, the CPU is just being very stubborn with this particular board, swapping that out for one that I had on hand that worked in other systems fixed it, but I'm still not entirely sure what was wrong with his chip. It did get extremely hot, extremely fast, and I'm not sure if it's because of the way the pins were crossed in the socket. I don't know. I know that those two pins that were in there were bent all the way backwards, so there were some small shorts, I'm sure, happening in there, and that potentially could have fried the chip. But again, I can't put my finger on it because I don't have enough info at my disposal. I just know what I'm seeing right here in the office, and it looks like that could have been the case. But for now, the end result is obviously desirable. The system's back up and running, and yeah, we've got an extra 1 terabyte worth of super fast storage from Crucial as well. So big thanks again to them. With that, if you guys enjoyed this one, let me know by giving this one a thumbs up. That would be greatly appreciated. If you have a system that's broken and you live in and around Orlando, Florida, send me an inquiry. You can do that by clicking the link in this video's description. And yeah, leave a comment down below. Let me know what you'd like to see next here on the channel. My name is Greg. Thanks for fixing a viewer's system with me.